Hello. Thank you for joining our weekly Coherence Hotspot. I am Gina Daniels, and my husband and I own Jax-Zen Healing Arts Center, which is now part of the worldwide Coherence Hotspot network. I am an approved HeartMath facilitator, and I will be your guide through the HeartMath experience. So if you're not familiar with HeartMath, I'd encourage you to go back and watch one of our previous webinar replays, or you can visit the HeartMath Institute's website, which I'll include a link in my follow-up email. So you can get some more information there. The HeartMath experience that we're going to be going through is a wonderful 90-minute course that explains in great detail the wonders of the heart, what coherence is, and why it's beneficial to us individually and as a collective. The program is broken down into 10 chapters, and we've been reviewing 2 chapters per week as a group. So in the first 2 chapters, we learned how to harness the true power and intelligence of the heart, just like harnessing electricity. You know how harnessing electricity changed the outer world. It really will change the way we think and feel, and also how we relate to one another. We also learned that the qualities of the heart have become scientifically proven as a source of intelligence. In fact, new science is mapping the influence of the heart, on the brain and the body, and how the heart communicates a wide spectrum of information, health and wellness, functions, and higher qualities of life like wisdom and compassion. So last week, we learned that the physical heart's communication and discovered the power of the heart's coherence, which is an optimal state. That's kind of what we're trying to get to, an optimal state where the heart, the brain, and the body align. So I think about the alignment. And that really helps us create a transformational outcome. We also learned and we practiced the quick coherence technique, which is a simple, practical HeartMath technique to access the heart's intelligence, energize your system, and restore balance. So today, we are going to understand how emotions play a key role in creating a more fulfilling life with less stress. Lord knows we need less stress right now. And we're going to go through an inner weather report exercise. So that will help us gain insights on, our everyday emotional patterns and our choices, the choices that we make. We'll also get to experience a new technique we're going to add on to the one we learned last week that will help us move from depleting emotions to renewing emotions. So before we get started with the first video, let's practice the quick coherence technique that we learned last week. So if you have an Inner Balance Trainer, go ahead and get that started now.
Mine is in the mail.
Yay. Yay. And either if you have it, link it up either with your Inner Balance app that comes with it. Whoops, I'm doing it backwards. Hook this one to my ear. Or you sync it to the Global Coherence App. And if you're not familiar with either one of those, we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But keep in mind that this biofeedback device is not required to get the benefit from HeartMath's techniques. All right, let me see if mine is on.
If somebody wasn't here, does it matter? Like I missed it because I, forgot about the technology thing. So what, do I just pay attention and move on with y'all?
Yeah, just because we're going to go ahead and they're going to repeat a lot of it in the videos, and we'll recap a lot of that along the way.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the videos is you can pretty much pop in almost at any time and get caught right back up. But I also encourage you to go back and review some of the replays if you're interested.
I am. That's why I was asking. Now, I'm just trying to update myself with the technology and go through all the things. So thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the quick coherence technique, there's basically 2 steps. So the 2 steps, the first step is heart focused breathing. And then the second step was activating a positive renewing feeling. So I'm going to kind of walk you through both of those. So And this is something you can do with your eyes open or closed. That's what's great about these techniques is you don't have to be in that, meditative state where you're, just alone on a mountain doing it. So let's go ahead and take a couple deep breaths. And bring your attention and your awareness to your heart or to the center of your chest. And imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or your chest area. Breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual. Just find an easy rhythm that's comfortable for you. A lot of times I'll put my hand here just to remind me that's where I'm breathing in and out of. Now we're going to activate a positive, renewing feeling. So you can experience or re-experience a time that you felt love or appreciation, a person or a pet, or maybe a moment in nature or an accomplishment, or just breathe in an attitude of love or gratitude, compassion, and really feel into that emotion. Don't just think about or visualize that person, place, or thing. Really feel that emotion, that love or that gratitude or that compassion. And check back in with your breathing. Make sure that you're continuing your breathing. And it's really as simple as that. So that quick coherence technique is something that you can practice right when you're waking up, before you get out of bed in the morning. It's always great to do like before a transition, like before you're going to a meeting or you're going to do something different. Just, just kind of get in coherence, get lined up. If you've got something, a stressful situation, a lot of times rather than reacting, try this. I try not to react. So let's say something's coming at me and and I want to react with words. I'll take a deep breath and I'll practice this coherence technique, and I just will literally take just a moment. And I've had people say, "Are you mad? You're not listening. You're not answering. So it's like, and I'll just say, just give me a moment. I'm just taking a moment. And I'll just get myself into that coherence, or at least as close as possible to it. And it really has a bearing on how you react to situations, also how you, it's helped my relationships with other people. As a mom, it's really a great technique when you want to react when your child does something that you're like, or the pet. So so it's something that we can practice. So a question for any of you that were on last week, did anyone have a chance to practice their coherence technique last week? Yeah.
I watched it this morning. I was watching that video this morning, and I wish I had known that 3 months ago when I had a run-in with somebody at work. How helpful that would have been.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. I thought about that the other day. Going through this pandemic situation, the first couple of weeks I was super stressed out, and then I kind of chilled out, and I've been in, a really better place when I remember to use my tools. But I've been thinking about wishing I had had this technique back when I was in the corporate world, because, I was just so stressed out all the time, and I really could have used it then. Maybe it's still be there. Probably not. But yeah, so you're right. I mean, but now we're learning it, and it's something that the more you practice it, you really will get where you can pop in and out. I was talking to Lori earlier in the week, and we were talking about how sometimes we react still, even after all our practice, we react to a situation or person, and go to that place where we used to, that inner talk, where we used to say, whatever, the place we really didn't want to be. And how now, after practicing these type of techniques, how we bounce back a lot quicker. And so it's really important. And that's one of the things that you'll see in the video today, is that it's okay to have those emotions. We're going to learn how to observe them and make a choice how we react. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get into that first video. All right, this first video is about 9 minutes long, less than 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and play the first video, and then I'll check back in with everyone, and then we'll go into the second video after that.
Our everyday life is dictated by emotions, much more than we can see or perceive. For example, can you imagine what it would be like if you took an exciting trip into an unknown and exotic country, but couldn't feel the exhilarating rush of excitement? What if you spent time with family or close friends, but couldn't feel the love between you? The ability to laugh or cry, to feel blissful or scared, is a source of beauty and adventure in life. We crave feeling because the experience of emotion makes life matter. It transforms our world from an objective, conceptual fact into a living, breathing experience. Emotions add texture to our lives. However, emotions can sometimes be very painful. Emotional problems are among the most difficult to deal with, especially if they're long-standing or traumatic. While the enigmatic power of emotions can enrich our lives beyond measure, it can create challenges just as easily. The intelligence needed to manage this potent inner force, using it for our highest good, has largely eluded mankind for centuries. It's not easy being human. We go through a lot of stressful situations in our everyday life, whether it's our work, our family, our love life, or our health. These scenarios that often enrich our life can also take a heavy toll on us. This may seem familiar to you. Take any one of these situations. Now, think about the negative emotions you usually feel when things get a little bit rough. You're most likely to feel stressed, pressured, angered, depressed, sad, afraid, or disappointed. That's okay. These emotions are a part of life. So, what do you do to manage these emotions? You might try to have some fun. So you go out to socialize. You watch sports. You get a drink. Perhaps you want to connect with nature. Or listen to some music. But as you may have experienced, these short-term solutions can provide enjoyment, but they are merely temporary releases from the debilitating emotions we can often feel. Do you see a pattern? Many of us go through life stuck on an emotional loop, relying on external resources which address the effects, but not the actual cause of our problems. Perhaps there is a better way. Through the eyes of the heart, we can begin to understand that emotions are not just reactions, and most importantly, that you do have the ability to choose your emotional state and not be a victim of life. No emotions we experience are wrong, bad. They are a part of life. However, it becomes obvious that some of the emotions we experience renew us and add quality to our lives, and others deplete us and rob us of vitality and enjoyment. Your body knows the difference. Every time you make an emotional shift, like from joy to sadness, anger to calm, love to anxiety, and so on, at least 1,400 biochemical changes take place inside you immediately. These hormonal changes are not fleeting. They affect your body for hours. Depleting emotions release excessive amounts of stress hormones into your system, like too much cortisol and adrenaline, affecting your health. Conversely, when we experience heart-related renewing emotions, your body produces regenerative hormones, like the anti-aging hormone DHEA and the love hormone oxytocin. Renewing emotions increase our resilience. Stress accumulates, creating nervous system chaos and drains our energy, while renewing emotions and attitudes recharge our inner battery. We can learn to move from depletion to renewal by activating the power of the heart. As you can see, emotions play an important role in how you think and behave, and in your health and longevity. They are like our internal weather. They shape our perception of reality and influence the decisions we make, both in the short and long term, from what we decide to have for breakfast to which candidates we choose to vote for in political elections. By being more aware of the power that emotions have in our everyday life, we can gain better control and take charge of them. Emotions teach us a lot about ourselves. Sometimes they help us, at other times they get in the way. It can seem like we don't have a choice, but we do. It's not always easy, but with practice, it becomes easier than you may think. Let's do an exercise now to get a better sense of how you're experiencing emotions that renew or drain you. By using the inner weather report, you can begin to see emotional patterns that deplete you and those that regenerate you. By doing so, you'll get a better view of what needs to change. Emotions on the upper left are those that have a lot of energy associated with them. Are they draining or renewing? Ask yourself, what emotions do you experience that would be represented in the upper left quadrant, and how do they affect you? Here are some examples. The lower left quadrant represents emotions that are less energized but often very depleting. What emotions do you experience that would be represented in the lower left quadrant? How do they affect you? Here are some examples. Now, let's look at the other side of this grid. In the lower right, we have emotions that don't necessarily have a lot of energy in them, but they are very renewing. What emotions do you experience that would be represented in the lower right quadrant, and how do they affect you? Here are some examples. The last quadrant is the upper right. Here is where you experience emotions that are regenerative and energized. What emotions do you experience that would be represented in the upper right quadrant, and how do they affect you? Here are some examples. As you can probably see, experiencing life on the right side is a lot more enjoyable, healthy, and productive than on the left. Ask yourself, how often am I living emotionally on the left versus the right? What patterns do you see in how you experience your emotions? Think about how life would be if you were experiencing more regenerative emotions more often. Life is made up of thousands of moments. What would your life become after experiencing many more moments on the right side of your inner weather report? Your heart's intelligence can help you get there. In the next chapter, you'll experience a technique that will help you move from the left side to the right side of your inner weather more often, from depletion to renewal, from old life to new life.
All right. Wow. So I found that very interesting. When I went through the course the first time, for some reason I don't remember this chapter. And when I watched it again last night, just making sure I was prepared for today, I was like, yeah, that's really interesting. And I remember reading or hearing about all that cascade of emotion, or that cascade of biochemicals that come over you when you shift your emotional state. So think about either way that you shift, you make a major shift. So if you're going from calm to mad, the shift that comes over you that produces that 1400 plus biochemicals changes that are depleting, versus shifting to a renewing or regenerative quality, and how those biochemicals that cascade over us are actually renewing. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm going to unmute you guys so you guys can join in if you like. Was there anything about that video that resonated with you, or that you want to comment on?
I thought it was interesting. I tend to land in my negative self in the lower left corner, and then when I rise even up to the higher left, it's progress. Over to here. So that was interesting to kind of see that categorized that way.
Yeah, that's interesting too. The lower left, that was kind of low energy, but it's still, there were depleting emotions. So that sometimes we get there when we're feeling melancholy or depressed.
Yeah, my anger goes straight to depression. So when I can kind of access it and express it, then it helps release it over to more of a passion.
Yeah, the next video we're going to actually talk about exercise that we can do to make that shift over to the right side, so we can live more on the right side more often. So again, practical application. The other thing I had written down, just some notes, that emotions are not just reactions, and more importantly, that we have the ability to choose our emotional state and not be victims of our feelings. So how so going back to that, some of those feelings are renewing and others are depleting. So making sure that we're starting to make that choice, which we'll do some more of that in the next video. Anyone else want to add to that, or anything?
I don't want to sound goofy, but I stay in
away, girl.
I know I'm gonna sound retarded no matter what, so I'm just gonna say it. I stay in the right side probably 98% of the time. But here's the big but. I live a very isolated, reclusive life. So it's really easy to stay over here. It's when you go and you begin to be part of the race where you have more of the issues for me, over here.
Human.
So I stay here a whole lot. But when I try to become back into society, I get over here sometimes, and I have to pull myself back. And I use these techniques indirectly. So they're very useful.
That's interesting. You think about a lot of people during this time that we're sheltering in place, they're finding that, well, it may be I think more people are shifting to like finding it more of a happy place, but initially it was really hard. They were kind of in the left the left lane. A lot of people were in the left lane, and maybe still are, in that same isolation. But see, you've made a choice to be in isolated by choice and knowing how to protect your emotions, probably.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing it a long time because of the spinal cord injuries. I've been isolated and reclusive probably about 8 years. So I've had a lot of practice. And so I'm already there. This, for me, I didn't have to make that shift like everyone else did. I didn't have to go through the anger part and the lower vibration emotions. It didn't change my life much. It changed most people. So, but it's easier for me to stay here. And now that I'm becoming more back into social and the world, it's easier for me to slip back. So I have to remember to stay in this and not let myself. So I still need to use the technique when I deal with stressful people, like I have an addictive brother. That's a stressful event. It's easy for me to get over here. But as long as I'm reclusive and isolated, and now everyone else is starting to, now that if they begin to shift, they see how easy it is. If you time wisely, it's easy to stay over here isolated.
That reminds me of it's easy to be a holy man on the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the relationships with other people are definitely the challenge.
They're the triggers. Yeah.
Yeah.
At first there's kind of a curve. I'm always telling people when they do their first float, for example, or if they try to do a silent day or go on a retreat, all your stuff comes up first.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to go through that first. Yeah. And our whole world has been doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like I couldn't really identify with any of the 4 quadrants. And Debbie knows this about me. I feel like I'm very balanced and kind of in the middle of things, like with the Enneagram and things.
She's a 9, all things equal.
Oh.
And I guess the only time I have a strong emotion is if I'm provoked by an outside force. So
yeah.
I'm interested to see the next one, to see how to bring up more emotion so that I can feel more.
Oh yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah, because the right side rocks. I'm just gonna say, when you get in that energy and you're renewing, and that's a special place. I could live there all the time.
Well, I mean, and that's what the science is showing. So those regenerative chemicals that are going on in our body are actually, they are renewing, and that's where it does affect our health positively. And obviously the opposite is true on the other side. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and jump over into the next video.
The best news of all is that feeling more regenerative emotions is attainable for each and every one of us. Let's shift from left to right on your inner weather report now, using the attitude breathing technique. Attitudes can create bundles of emotions. They can generate emotional undercurrents or background noise that affect our mood swings, the way we feel overall, and our relationships. The attitude breathing technique helps us instate replacement attitudes that are more effective and save energy. The first step is to observe what you are feeling. What emotional patterns and attitudes have you been experiencing today? Perhaps you've been feeling a little frustrated, or perhaps anxious, or maybe a little down on yourself or on life. Whatever you've been feeling, it's okay. It's just time now to make a shift.
Hi, I'm Deborah Rosman, and I'll lead you through the attitude breathing technique now. First, just recognize the feeling or attitude you want to change. What would you rather feel? Then choose an attitude or feeling you'd like to replace it with. Here are some examples. Maybe if you've been feeling stressed, you'd rather feel calm. If you've been feeling overloaded, you want to replace it with a feeling of ease. Or if you've been feeling judgmental, how about replacing it with kindness or compassion? You can now choose an attitude to replace the one you identified, or be open to a new replacement attitude from your intuition. Next, focus your attention in the area of the heart. And imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. As you continue heart-focused breathing, practice breathing in and increasing the feeling of your new replacement attitude. Just stay with it until you start to feel the shift. Now practice maintaining your new attitude and perceptions as you move through your day-to-day interactions. Use attitude breathing on the go and to reset your replacement attitude if it starts to fade. Here are the attitude breathing quick steps. Recognize the feeling or attitude you want to change. Breathe in a replacement attitude or feeling. Practice maintaining your new attitude and composure.
Attitude breathing helps open the heart so that our intuitive heart intelligence can provide insight that allows a bigger picture to emerge in our perceptions and facilitates mental and emotional healing. As you practice maintaining your new attitudes and perceptions as you move through your day-to-day interactions, eventually your heart-brain communication pathway will help you release negative emotional patterns stored in your amygdala and new perceptions that help free you from draining emotional memories. You begin to uncover a new you.
So it's pretty simple, but I think the trickiest part of this whole technique is slowing down and acknowledging what you're feeling. Most of us don't do that enough, but when we do, there's great benefit in seeing how we are functioning within the context of our day, week, a month, or whatever.
When I had post-traumatic stress and I first started using HeartMath, there were times I had to do the tools every 2 minutes because my nervous system had a baseline of trauma and hypervigilance. But once I learned attitude breathing, if you think about attitudes, if emotions are a flow of energy like a river, each time I use a HeartMath tool, I might be taking one bucket of the river and putting it in another direction. But when I change an attitude, that's like rerouting the river banks. It changes the entire emotional flow. So this morning, for example, I was working with just an attitude that life itself is a gift. And breathing that attitude as I'm preparing right now for a major surgery, it changed my attitude of fear and apprehension moving into this big life event into what a gift the surgery itself is and how that's going to improve my quality of life. I didn't have to micromanage every little emotion in talking to all the surgeons today. I could instead just change an attitude and the emotions automatically followed it. So it's a very efficient move to change an attitude.
HeartMath allows kids a choice point. It gives them an opportunity, once they're aware that they don't have to run the mill through anxiety and through fear and through always needing to worry about what's coming next in their next activity or their next homework assignment, that it gives them an opportunity to stop and make a choice. And coming to their heart gives them a focus rather than focusing on whatever else they need to worry about. They can come to their heart. And it's a safe place, and it's a place where they can connect with more positive emotions that they can use to break the cycle of the anxiety and the stress from their environments, and gives them an opportunity to input a different emotion that then sets their physiology into a totally different trajectory.
I think that the HeartMath tools really help the individual to use these things in the moments of duress, which is when we want those. And so much of life, what I see is that we lose our power all the time. And I think that tools like HeartMath help to re-establish that connection with what you know is true. Creates the opportunity for you to create a new awareness of what you're doing in the moment. And are you really in the moment? And recognizing that you're in the moment also helps you recognize that you're out of it. So can you come back to the conversation? Can you come back to the internal conversation?
The huge difference that HeartMath has brought to me in my profession is that I'm able to use these tools in real time. That is the magic of these tools. So eyes open, I can really be in a beautiful heart space with my patient. And if I'm being challenged, if I'm starting to go into the effects of stress, I can actually bring myself back and by focusing my attention on my heart, and think much more clearly and communicate much more effectively with them. So it's really shifted how I practice and how I communicate. So with these tools, you can elegantly navigate away from states that you are less favorable, like depleting emotions, to more rejuvenating, renewing emotions, and to think more clearly and just be a better person we all want to be.
We actually clear the slate and we come back to a neutral balance, and that gives us more choice in a moment, gives us a pause to be able to say, okay, what do I want to do now? What is the best action or perception for this situation? And having that ability to take charge and pause in the moment and pause our physiological reaction really saves a tremendous amount of energy.
At the beginning, it may seem hard or discouraging, yet with practice, you can learn to recognize your heart's intuition. Our heart is wise, and it speaks to us in numerous ways. If you can build the habit of practicing techniques like attitude breathing or quick coherence, whenever you start to feel stress, you will gain immediate benefits. If you commit to practicing these techniques at least once a day for the next 6 weeks, you will build resilience and have more resources to face the challenges of our everyday life and enjoy a richer and more nurturing experience. 6 weeks is the time that it often takes to anchor in a new habit, to create a baseline shift in your emotional responses to life, a new neural pattern. So it's worth committing to a simple practice that doesn't take much time, but is very effective.
All right, so I took a few notes that I thought, well, let's unmute you guys. So, and you guys can unmute yourself if you need to. So what made me think about, what I thought about was that we're all on this different points of our journey. So Jamie, you mentioned you tend to be kind of in a balanced state. Some others have maybe had some trauma, and so they're working from this other area. So these techniques are going to help them maybe get to that balanced state. And then once you get there, having that choice, because that's kind of where we're trying to get to, is that balanced state. But then, like Robin said, then when you can actually shift over from this middle state, which is great, to the coherent, higher coherence, because this is, balance is coherence, and you can get higher and higher coherence by continuing to practice. Then that state becomes different. So it's like, I tend to be like you, Jamie. I'm kind of middle of the road, try to, pretty balanced most of the time. but as I practice these, I really am starting to learn how to tap into my heart's intuition, which is another aspect of this. So, you know, it took me a little while to get to this point, and now I'm learning to get, you know, on my journey. And that intuitive piece of it is, it's just different. Now you're starting to really listen, learning to listen to your heart and make choices and take risks based on that. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about that.
I'd like to share. I don't know if this is exactly what you were speaking of, but I like the way he emphasized that first step where we observe and acknowledge what we're feeling. Because I know for me growing up, you know, that was suppressed at a very young age. And I really grew up not really knowing what I was feeling. And so now I just ask myself, you know, how are you feeling? You know, and just observing and just acknowledging it and just saying it out loud. And if I need to feel it more, then I just kind of lean into it. Because otherwise it just comes out so sideways. If I just, you know, barrel through life. And I'm really curious because it really is reminiscent of the Jinshin Jitsu, the energy medicine that I practice. And because we talk about attitudes of worry, fear, anger, grief, and pretense. And so I'm really curious to get the sensor and see how practicing Jinshin and how it affects my coherence, and then adding the heart meditation with the Jinshin and seeing how it affects, you know, and how that's going to come together. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, and like we talked about last week, I mean, this is another tool for our toolbox. So I love integrating the heart math or the heart techniques into the other things that we're already doing, you know, that we've, wherever we're at on our journey. But you mentioned that taking, you know, kind of stopping and taking time out to observe where we're at right now. And I think, I don't know about y'all, but, and I don't know if it's just how I was, or maybe it's a woman thing, but I got in such the habit when somebody's like, how you feeling? I'm like, I'm good. And, you know, and sometimes I can make myself believe I'm good. And most of the time I am good, but there's a lot of times we are stuffing that down. So rather than stuff it down, be like you said, ask yourself, oh, how am I? Wait a minute, how am I doing? And observe, you know, what am I feeling right now? And and I think they said it in one of those videos today, no emotions are bad. Right. It's really how we react to those emotions. So the feelings that we have for that shift is where that, you know, that's where it can have a negative bearing on our health. But if we observe it, acknowledge it, that's, you know, that's a little different than reacting to it, right? Because I even see it in my little one. You know, he'll have these emotions that he doesn't really know how to identify yet. He's like, why am I feeling like this? He wants to put a reason behind it. I'm like, it's okay. You know, it's okay to have those. It's okay to have feelings.
Sometimes you have to do a primal feelings. Sometimes you have to scream and beat your pillow or something, you know, to get it out of you.
That's okay.
But you're not holding on to it. So, yeah, exactly.
We live in a very strong positive vibe only culture. And I think it's the only word that can be dangerous in that comment. Positive vibes only. So that's not authentic. There's no authenticity there. That yes, we want to look at the good and we want to have an optimistic outlook in life. But if we shame or shun people that are feeling sad or feeling angry, then what have we really learned and evolved? Concern.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
All right. The other the person that she's the HeartMath trainer. She had the scarf on in the video, and she said, "Emotions are a flow of energy like a river. When I changed an attitude, that's like rerouting the riverbanks it changes the emotional flow. And I really love that, because I thought, you know, you think about the more you practice, that is, you're just changing, you know, riverbanks, right? And then, you know, the emotions flow along with it. And so you're not having to figure it out along the way. And anyway, I really liked that quote that she.
Yeah, so you don't have to rely on willpower. You work with the chemical soup that's in you. Shift that.
Hey there. Hey, I'm in video class.
Who said what?
I'm screen. Somebody was trying to talk to me. I told him I was in class.
Okay. I couldn't tell if you're talking to us or somebody else.
Sorry, y'all.
That's okay, Emily. All right. And then the other thing, I think, again, just to reiterate, you know, slow down and observe. Like, we don't take that time to do that. And I think that's what's great about what's going on right now, is we are slowing down enough to take, you know, like, oh, okay, you know. And so when those feelings start creeping in, it's a little easier to make a shift if we need to.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing in that. And I like watching those with people. Like, we're all together watching it, you know, the videos together. And I appreciate you guys being part of this with me. And
we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Appreciate you.
Oh, and this is great. I love this. This is so freaking awesome.
I know. I love to watch you're over there doing your artwork while we're, yes, it's amazing.
Like, she can hang out in the hammock. Somebody can sew. I can record. We can watch videos all at the same time and just crack out on all the senses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it.
So I was going to mention a little bit about the Inner Balance Trainer. Before I unhook that, I'm going to attempt to share my my phone here so you can see what I'm looking at here. The session that we're in our Jax-Zen Coherence Hotspot group, which is on the Global Coherence App. And the best part of this is when I go to the map view, you can see there's only one of us in this group that has it right now, and that's me. Yep. So the pink dots all over the world are other people that are practicing their coherence techniques. Let's see where they're at. There you go. There's some right there. Bunch over there in Europe, Italy, Croatia.
Like they're out in the water.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then let's see who's doing it in the U.S. So there's us in Mississippi. Yes.
Zoom in, Gina. Zoom in to where we are.
There we go. There's some more in Mississippi. There's 3 of us on there.
So this is me down here.
Yep, you must be Morton.
Yeah, I'm near the Morton. Yep.
I forgot to sign in.
So there's Gina, and there's 2 more.
I don't see me.
I think I registered myself as one too.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I'm pretty sure I registered myself because this is like my favorite thing ever.
Isn't this great? Yeah, so this is really cool. Like I said, it's not a necessary part of the HeartMath techniques, but it is. I love being able to see people all over the world doing this, and this is part of the global coherence that we're going to start learning about over the next couple of weeks. So, let me tell you about that in just a moment. So, back to the Inner Balance Trainer. So, this is a biofeedback device, and it measures heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is when you look at the heartbeats, it's really, they're measuring the spaces between the beats. And they've found scientifically that the way that however they measure it, they can really tell that really correlates to health, good health. So the higher your coherence is, that's how they measure coherence, the better, for a lot of reasons. So that's what this does here. And this basically just helps you figure out that feeling of when you are in coherence. So for instance, back to Jamie and I, we're we live in this balanced middle. Sorry, Jamie, I'm taking you down with me. So I always, I'm in the middle. I feel good. I'm fine. I hardly ever go this way, hardly ever go this way. But what I found is when I measure my coherence that I'm not as coherent as I thought I was. So learning to practice the heart-centered, adding the heart to all my other tools has changed everything. Okay, so, I'm floating, I'm meditating, I'm doing all those things, but when I start using heart technique, it definitely activates it, right? That's that word we looked at the other day. It activates. And so when I'm wearing my Inner Balance Trainer, it'll beep at me. So like I'm thinking I'm in coherence. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. I got bliss. I'm feeling really great. And then all of a sudden my mind wanders to, I got this. And then it goes beep. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get back in, right? Or it wanders to, where are the plants? And then, so it just is a way to help you get that feeling of where you are when you are in coherence. And then you start understanding that feeling and, probably won't need it at some point, but I really like the idea of being able to see everybody across the world doing it. So I keep using it. So that's that. So anyhow, there's the link to that is on, I'll put it in the email. And again, it's not necessary. It's just a fun tool if you're into that kind of thing. The app, the Global Coherence App, is a free app, and you don't need it'll measure your device if you have it plugged in, but you can still use it without the device, just to kind of see where everybody's at. And then next week, our Coherence Hotspot is going to be on Wednesday at 2:00 again, and the videos for next week is going more into intuition, the heart's intuition. So that's where I start feeling like you start really getting, because we're learning the basics and then taking it to the next level by really getting into the heart's intuition. And then they're going to talk about what they call social coherence. So there's individual coherence, there's social coherence, and then there's global coherence. So that'll be in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about global coherence. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and hopefully you meet us back here next Wednesday. And if you're watching the replay, please join us next week, Wednesday.
Oh no, is this it? Are we done?
We're done for now.
We're done,
I had
Emily.
so fun, y'all. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time, okay?
All right.
Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.